Aleichem Rabbi Sai. Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Sai. This is Yehuda 11. The program is 11 at 11, heard each and every week on Thursday evening, Leil Shishi, on WSNR 620 radio. It's also videoed at Rabbi.zone or YouTube channel 1111, 11, the number 11, 11, L-E-V-I-N, the number 11. And of course, please don't forget our hotline. People are interested in hearing it in Eretz Yisrael and in different places. Nari Hasadeh, Erlich Yidden who do not have access, Baruch Hashem, to the internet. It's 641-715-3900, 641-715-3900, extension 247656. And again, please pass down the hotline number, pass it around, both in Eretz Yisrael, in Lakewood, B'nai Torah, in their downtime. If they want to listen, with 98% of my brain tied behind all of your backs, Rosh Limbaugh included, are your humble host, following the lead of the Gedolim of yesteryear that endorsed me, B'Ksavim Balpeh, and gave me the job assignment so that I know what my ois is in the Sefer Torah. It's to stand up for morality, like my great-grandparents did from the Shevet Levi from the time of Chet HaEgel, and now like my cousins, the Kahanim, did during Hanukkah in fighting not only against the Yevonim, but against the Misyavnim. I, your humble servant, Yehuda 11, will give you more hashkafa, more insight, more analysis, more clarity than you're going to get at tomorrow at our good convention, which at the time of the airing of this program on the radio will have already started. The title of this week's episode, this week's Lakota Nostra, this little thing of ours, is Unbelievable Corruption. Moirav Rabbi Sai, I often think that if I'd have to give a thumbnail explanation, so Levin, what it is exactly that you do in your social media and your radio program, I would say, unfortunately, with the krechts, I am seemingly cataloging the decline of morality within the Yiddish community, the level of corruption that is ongoing in all segments of our society, our religious society, is staggering. I go through it every day, looking at the news, hearing things that are going on, and seeing the ignorance is bliss of so many of our ostensibly religious Orthodox Jews who are like sponges. They are taking in so much of the foreign culture. This is mamish Hanukkah redux. This the misyavnikite within our community, where people could be wearing the shmoyne begodim, but the misyavnikite is unbelievable. I want to tell you again, in no particular order, this is a free streaming of conscious. Let me make the following announcement that in Yirtzeh Hashem, and please, I ask all of our people out there, please spread the word in Lakewood, New Jersey, in Yirtzeh Hashem, 2 weeks from now, which would be Parshas Miketz, in Yirtzeh Hashem, Chanukah, I don't know, something like this, the fifth candle or something like that. I hope to be in Lakewood live. Please check your insurance policy. Make sure you have hurricane and earthquake insurance, because, brother, we're going to shake things up. Hope to be in Lakewood for the Shabbos Chanukah weekend. The Agudisten are doing it at the Turkey Fest at the time of the hearing of this program, and are your humble host, Yehuda Halidel Maccabee from the tribe of Levi, fighting against the Yevonim and the Misyavnim. I want to take the battle to one of the greatest Torah citadels in the world, to Lakewood, New Jersey, where we will be discussing and identifying the Yevonim and Misyavnim to Lakewood. And I hope to have the opportunity to speak to Kumsitz, to take on all questions. As far as I'm concerned, nothing is off limits. And I cannot yet announce the locations. We're in the process of working on this, but I hope to be somewhere Thursday night for Cholin Kumsitz and Schmoozing. And we're looking into the possibility of something Motzei Shabbos Hanukkah. And we're looking into the possibility of Sunday. On Sunday afternoon around midday, we're thinking of a fascinating idea, a first historically, something really chikav. We're thinking of having an assemblage with it chevra to celebrate Hanukkah with divrei Torah, singing, and insights and analysis of the news by yours truly in the Lakewood location. And we would go interactive with a similar location in Yerushalayim Yar Kodesh, where they would be 7 hours later. It would be Zois Hanukkah by them already Sunday evening, and hopefully they would have a prominent speaker possibly, and we'll be able to interact for an hour or two. And this is very exciting. I thought of this as very innovative. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on in Lakewood in Yisra Hashem 2 weekends hence during Hanukkah. How appropriate. So fasten your seatbelts, Rabbi Sai, and help spread the word. Now, in no particular order, there's a hearing this coming Monday in Trenton. I can't say in Yirtzeh Hashem. I would say in Yirtzeh Hashem, the hearing should be Batul Mevutal on legalizing Mary Jane, otherwise known as marijuana. Again, they're pushing forward with all the chazurai, legalizing marijuana. And who knows what's going to come out of that. Rabbi Say, let's be frank, as it is, the smell of weed is far too pervasive in Torah communities, far too pervasive on the periphery of certain yeshivas. And now when it becomes legal, the problem is, again, when something gets the endorsement, the gushpanka, the seal of approval societally by being ensconced into law, it has a direct impact, either letav or lemutav, for the better or deleteriously on the rest of society. As an example, I quote the 1964 Civil Rights Act that changed the attitude of white America towards interracial marriage, interracial fraternization, and in general attitudes towards other races. And they started to become popular in television programs, etc. There was a whole mapecha in the Bikernish. Now, I'm not saying this in a negative way. I am merely demonstrating the impact that law has. And as I've said many times before from this forum, that's why the Assemblywoman of Greenwich Village, Deborah Glick, Fatrasket, she introduces a bill to take adultery off the book. She did it for years. Why? She says because it's a chucha v'tlula, it's a joke, because adultery there hasn't been enforced since the early 1960s. So if it's on the book and it's not enforced, take it off. Now this is dissembling. This is devious. This is dishonest. The reason she wants to take it on the book, what's the matter? It's too heavy for you, Deborah? You're picking up the book? What does she care if it's on the books? What does an out activist lesbian care about an adultery law that has had to do from time immemorial between a man husband and a woman wife? And even now, Apfalapume with the schmutz of same-gender marriage. So why shouldn't she want l'shitasa that there should be something wrong with adultery, that people should understand to be monogamous? So the answer is, my dear friend, she understands that as long as it's on the book, even though it's not dusted off, it's gathering dust and it's very archaic, people can point and say, see, there is something wrong with infidelity, with not being faithful to one's spouse. But once it's off the books, society has now been enlightened, and now we can do even more arayas. And if the heterosexual community is involved in arayas, so by extension, they will no longer look askance at the Mishkav Zacha community and the transgender community and all of the other deviant excesses. That's what's going on. That's what's going on. So therefore, you have to understand that legitimizing marijuana, which I hear, I don't know if it's anecdotal, if it's mythological, or it's true that the OU is already considering giving hashgachas on marijuana cookies or different kinds of things. Officially, ostensibly, it's for medical marijuana, but you should know in many places they're legalizing, like in Colorado, they're legalizing marijuana straight. So is OU doing a smart thing by giving a hechsher for this? Oh, we have to do it because there are people who are suffering, they need it for pain. So the question is for those people. For many years, the Olam ate Kellogg's cornflakes. They checked it out with the Vada Rabban in Massachusetts. There wasn't an official hechsher, I don't think. But the Vada Rabban in Massachusetts used to say it was okay, and that was it. In other words, it's a gray area. People need it for medicinal reasons, for pain killing. I'm not a mumcha enough to say. It seems to be that people say it helps, you need it. Okay, so for that, let them unofficially do it. But that OU should officially give a hashgacha to medical marijuana while toivim shebe'umos, let's say the late Attorney General, the previous Attorney General Sessions, was against it. I think Trump was against it. But I'm saying there are Erlicha non-Jews who are very much against this because I understand it's a gateway drug, etc., etc. Aside from what Savage speaks about and others speak about the damage it does to a person's brain and everything else. So plotting that they're going to legitimize marijuana, legalize it, because I assure you that the more from people are going to use it when it's legal than when it's illegal. So we should be opposed to this. And Halavai Yidden would go down and show their faces in Trenton. I don't think it's going to happen, Neskadol Hayasham, but not in Trenton. But nevertheless, it's something to be concerned about. L'chaim Tov L'Shalom, first drink of the evening. Again, I want to tell people, you can contact me at rabbi11@gmail.com, rabbi11@gmail.com. You can call and leave a message for me on New York 718, NYC Get One, New York City Get One. You can leave a message for me. I'm available to speak, like I'll be doing in Lakewood. I'm available to speak, especially in Brooklyn, at other events, etc., because my job is to spread the word, and you can contact me about that. And finally, I want to say that I announced last week, I announced that this week I wanted to inaugurate a new program of saying a Mishnah L'Zecha Nishmas, departed person. And therefore, this week I'm not going to start with a Mishnah, but hopefully, time allowing, I'm going to say a very, very fascinating Devar Torah on last week's Parsha on Vayetze, which I was Machadish, Mamish, nearly over a quarter of a century ago, 3 decades or more ago. And I first spoke about it publicly at the Shalom Zachar. My son Yisrael, who's either celebrated his 29th or 30th birthday in Eretz Yisrael. Shout out to Yitrael Levin. And I asked around 6 or 7 disparate questions throughout the parsha, and I answered them with one fascinating aside, and I think you'll find it interesting. And we're going to do it L'Zecha Nishmas, somebody. So hopefully we're going to do this a little bit later in the program. Often because of the volume of stuff to share, we don't get to the Divrei Torah, and that's unfortunate. Some people tell me, listen, we're interested in the Hak, Rabbi. We're not interested in Divrei Torah. We want to hear Divrei Torah, Divrei Machshava. We want to hear Yochadushim. We can go and open up a sefer. We're turning on to you. Entertain us with the Hak, with the raid. But Talmud Torah D'Rabbim is a big schus, and I have to be concerned with my Elam Haba also, Rabbi Isai. So, anyhow, I want to tell you that Reb Josh Melman of the vaunted Flatbush Jewish Coalition, or whatever they call themselves, the political arm, is continuing to make the news. Josh is on the transition team of that Prutza from Matilda Forehand, or whatever her name is, I think it's the 27th Assembly District. I'm not sure. It's the one of Brighton Seagate. Remember last week we told you how he gave a Hanifa Dika tweet about how pleased, etc., etc. And now we learn how proud we are, how happy, what a nachas, that one of our own has made it big. Josh Mehlman, Shalita, the Shliach of Rabbonim from Flatbush, is on the transition team of this Matilda forehand. You know, usually you hear about a president having a transition team, maybe a governor. Here, a relatively minor thing, a neophyte pipsqueak assemblywoman to be has a transition team. She's transitioning from the gay organization that she made, and with the help of Josh Mehlman, she's going to be very matzliach. And we do it all for you, Klal Yisrael. Although it's uncomfortable for us, we'll chanfa, we'll lek, sycophantry supreme. We'll make it out like peaches and cream. It's like a dream. But Josh only does it lishma. It's nothing personal for his power or ambition or anything like that. It's just Mamish Klal Yisrael needs him to be on this transition team after he chamfed this person who shares our most intimate values. Yes, Josh, way to go, Josh, way to go. Big nachas. That's an example of corruption. And that's why I think that, as I started to say before, when history will ask, what was Yehuda Levin doing on his media? I'm afraid, ruefully, I might have to say, chronicling the absolute corruptive decline within the Orthodox Haredi community. Corruption of individuals, corruption de rabbim. At the time of the airing of this program on the radio, I'm doing it on video live, so anybody can tune in and see it live. I'm going to have the video up there, Yitzhak Hashem, as soon as it goes up. But for those who hear it, be'itoyu bizmanoi, so there'll be the Aguda convention, and of course they'll be having that disgraceful embarrassment of an Aguda session, a breakout. What is it breaking out from? Yiddishkeit, godly values, the values of the Torah of the Gedolim of yesteryear. They're going to have how to interact in this generation, in this year, with progressive politics, etc. Progressive is a word. Why do they write progressive in Aguda? Come on, why aren't you honest? How do we interact in schmutz? Not progressive. Progressive means schmutz. It means open-minded, liberally open-minded until your brains have fallen out. That's what it means. That's what it means. It means that we're going to pass, chas v'shalom, 20 bills possibly this year that are going to be anathema, antithetical, oppositional, adversarial, contrarian. Did I give you enough adjectives? To the very raison d'etre, the leitmotiv, the value system of Klal Yisrael. So it's progressive. Look how the stupids at Aguda fall into the Orwellian trap of using their terminologies. Can we then expect Aguda, if they have to talk about something, to say gay also? Because that's the term used. So what does it mean progressive? First of all, they could have used the word liberal. See, the liberals decided that liberals are dirty words, so they play with etymology, with terminologies to brainwash. Progressive, who's against progress? We don't want to have to reap and harvest by hand. We want to use the Grim Reaper. We want to use automation, right? Progress. We have the internet. It's progress. Now Aguda can tweet and shmeet and retweet and repeat all the Hanifa. Not only them, Balav can do it and Satmar can do it and the other Hasidic groups can do it. You understand? Ein bayish, ein bo mess, M-E-S-S, right? They message out the mess. A death style, not a lifestyle. Not Torah's Chaim. No, maybe Ahavas Chesed. You know what kind of Chesed? The Chesed, ki Chesed hu. When it says an extreme of licentiousness is called Chesed. because an overkill of chesed, Chazal say, leads to licentiousness. So it's not a Torah's Chaim, it's a Havas chesed, unfortunately. That kind of chesed. Oivei. Rabbi Sai. So the corruptor for the week and for the last few weeks, Josh Melton was doing a great job. As a matter of fact, he's not finished yet. No, Josh is a very busy man. The coalition, the Flatbush Coalition, they're doing good things for Klal Yisrael. So he sent out another tweet. We look forward to the coming session in the New York Senate. Look forward to a session where now the Republicans have lost it. There's nobody to keep their finger in the proverbial dike anymore to prevent the deluge of immorality and schmutz and anti-family and anti-life and anti-Torah values legislation that is going to be passed with impunity. And you're looking forward, Josh? Where do you write these? Where do you get these things? Who do you consult? Toiras Hashem machimas besi. Toiras Hashem is supposed to make the simpleton smart. Where is the machimas besi? It seems it's in the safety deposit box in the bank. I don't understand the seichel. Aguda has to use the word progressive to show they're with it in the hip. They can't say liberal. They can't say immoral. Chas v'shalom, they should call it like it is. Feckless. And who did they put on that session? They put on the vaunted, the capo de tutte capo, David the Nachash Greenfield. You know, it's coming up to Hanukkah. Hanukkah and Daniel, Yovan is Nechoshes. And this is why I'm saying Nechoshes, he was that metal he represented Nechoshes. And Nechoshes is etymologically related to Nachash. Crafty and shrewd, Nachash, Hayorim, we call Chayas, were all the animals in paradise. Yeah? Yes. David Greenfield is going to speak to us. Teaching us words of wisdom. David Greenfield. David Greenfield. Yerushalayim. David Greenfield. Kiddush Hashem. We miss him so much in public life. David Greenfield. So Aguda, who couldn't stand him and was plotting from him when he was around. Aguda is now confident and kissing up to him. David Greenfield. Is it because he's the head of the Metropolitan Council, Coordinating Council of Poverty and Poor, and he can control several $1 million of government programs? Could that possibly be why? Or could it be because they know that David Greenfield, the puppet master, is maneuvering and manipulating various people, maybe like to a certain degree a Calvin Yeager or others, etc., etc.? Or could it be that Agud is turning the other cheek and they've forgotten all the wonderful, beautiful bills that David Greenfield supported, like Truth in Advertising, which would try to close down pro-life clinics because David was concerned that it was dishonest when they make a crisis pregnancy center that women should come in and get a pregnancy test, and then they would have a chance to persuade the woman showing us sonograms or other things that it's a live fetus and be Makayim, the one of the Shev of Mrs. Bnei Noach, of Shevch Dam Adam Ba'adam Dam Yishavech, that it's a capital offense feticide to abort a baby. But David Greenfield had to stick out his talafim, his chazafisluch, to show his progressive buddies in the city council, etc., and the media looking at the ortho, ultra-ortho Jew representing the ultra-ortho backwards Neanderthal Borough Park, that look, he's supporting our liberal game plan to close down the crisis pregnancy centers by saying they're practicing consumer fraud because they don't tell the poor ladies coming for a pregnancy test that they don't have a doctor on the site to perform an abortion. This is what Scott's Greenfield, Nachash, Levin, is it nice to talk like this about a fellow Jew? Is it nice for a 64-year-old rabbi? Is it dignified? How do you speak like that? How do I speak like that? Where's your irritation in being represented by such lowlife that does such kind of things and makes a chilul Hashem barabim? This whole discussions in the Poskim, who should do the abortion by a Gentile woman, is a Jewish doctor allowed to do it, etc., etc., because Akav, it's a Chir Misa, etc. And here we have this guy promoting abortion that would help because of this kind of a law that Jewish ladies will get abortions because of this kind of stuff. Jewish young women who are not from will be aborting the fruit of their womb, and chas v'shalom they should have a chance to be persuaded in one of these crisis pregnancy centers. And you think it never happens? I say edus that I had received calls in the past years from Gentiles that they managed to persuade a young Jewish lady not to abort her baby and to carry it to term and have it adopted, and they wanted to find a Jewish place to hold the lady until she gave birth or to adopt the child, whatever it was. So that's what Greenfield was doing, promoting with Sikha, and that's just one bill. There were many bills that he supported about education with Gayachs and everything else, which are counter to everything we stand for. Yasher Koyach, we need David Greenfield to teach us. What's he going to teach us? How to stand up for Kedusha v'Tahara? He's going to teach us how to lek and chanfa. But we don't need David Greenfield for that. We already have that from the outside. We have that from Ezra Freelander, my friend. We have that from Josh Mailman. We have that from Chatzkele Bennett and so many others. So what do we need to hear it from David Greenfield? You watch and get a copy of that session, and you'll see the apikursus there. Or he'll put on a chazafishal gestel, similar to what it says in the Chazal, Asidin Esav Lihisate V'tat V'tzitzis. Esav is going to wear talis and he's going to sit in the Mizrach and he's going to look like such a tzaddik, and they're not going to know until, so to speak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to throw him off the western wall, so to speak, the eastern wall. You understand? He's going to play it one of two ways. Either he's going to say, pragmatically, we have to do something. Of course, we have to keep our values, and they'll double talk like Simcha Eichenstein, like the same values he was keeping and manifesting. Yes, of course, while he was with de Blasio and de Napoli, and when he went to the gay birthday party of Corey, the speaker, Gay Johnson, before he became speaker, when he was a gay journalist pushing all the schmutz and interviewing Gerald Nadler and saying, wow, how courageous you are. Jerry Nadler, you represent the Orthodox and you're pro-Mishkav Zohar. Yes, it's wonderful. Yep. So, by the way, speaking of Simcha Eichenstein, he's not even in Oid Heimedabrim. He's not even yet in the assembly, and he's already a mumcha because he worked for the lowlifes like the Napoli and this, and he has experience. He worked with Edgar Friedler's liberal open-mindedness until his brains are fallen out. You understand? Laying all over the ground when he hanfed the fruitcake. I'm sorry, he made a fruit party on Tu B'Shvat for the married lesbian wannabe mayor at the time, Christina Quinn, for which he was paid some nice shkolim. Kama oile, kefira l'HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ezra, Zuktins. How much do we sell ourselves for? A little Esnan Zoyne Mechia Keller geld to make a fruit party on Tu B'Shvat in the Bara Park, in the Liske Stieb, Ezra. It's all in good fun. Because Ezra, he understands what I'm doing. And Yerucham Silva understands what I'm doing. And Simcha Felder understands what I'm doing. Simcha Eichens is very upset. He doesn't understand that his job is to compromise and to make all the shtick. And my job is to see to it that he doesn't do it. And he doesn't. That he speaks up forcefully in his first assembly inaugural speech. And he'll say, I'm going to represent family values now more than ever before we need it. Make common cause with some conservative Democrats, if you can find them, middle of the road Democrats and conservative Republicans. There's still several tens of them in the assembly. Make a Kiddush Hashem Simcha. Give us something to be with Simcha about. And who's the third winner? Mr. Corruption himself. The Migdal Chesed. Remember, Chesed has two connotations. There's Chesed and the Chesed of extreme, which is corruption, deviance. Meir Lichtenstein. And Rabbi Zweibel was told that he shouldn't be having Meir Lichtenstein speaking there. It's an embarrassment. As Aviyahi Mechaleles, you are embarrassing our so-called Gedolim organization that represents Rebbe Yisrael of Klal Yisrael, like Moshe Sherah said. Yeah, Lichtenstein? Really? Great. We're proud of you, Aguda. You've done us proud. Yes, sirree. We'll speak more about it when we come to Lakewood. Oh, yeah. Spread the word, baby. Moving right along. You know what's happening? I think that there's a lowlife with a Greek-sounding name. Speaking of the Hanukkah, pre-Hanukkah, precursor to Hanukkah, he has the whole Yavani culture, and the Misyavni connection is right there with good old Josh, who's busy giving the guy who beat Marty Golden in the state Senate. Marty Golden, who was an ally of the Orthodox community, who is reasonable. He wasn't perfect, but he was much more reasonable on morality than his adversary who beat him, who ran against him 6 years ago unsuccessfully. He lost by 10 points, and now he beat him. And do you know what he did? Usually you bring up votes that a person does in the last few years. He went back maybe for 6 or 7 years ago to when the Mishkav Zocha marriage passed, and he made it a central part of his campaign that Marty Golden has to be defeated because he opposed Mishkav Zocha marriage. Comes along on Misyavni together with the Greek Yavani from Bay Ridge and Bensonhurst. Comes along Josh, and he's working with him. He's so proud. And Josh writes he's looking forward to the new Senate and a new session in the Senate. Rabbi Lefkowitz, Simcha Lefkowitz of Agudas Yisrael, and others understand that it's Ochen Veda Matziv. But Josh is the eternal optimist. He's looking forward. We can still maybe through a Hanifa pull out a few shkolim. Of course, we'll have to kowtow. We'll have to genuflect, and we'll have to turn the other both cheeks to the immorality. But look, what won't we do for Klal Yisrael? We do it all for you, right? Yes, of course. I think, I had a letter of endorsement, and it was close, with the Kashever Rav's family. He spoke for me at the Beis Yaakov in a pro-Levin gathering on Chalamoid Sukkis, Tashud Mem Hey, the year I was running against Solas. And he wrote, I'm a Shlucha D'Rabbanan B'Chalasar V'Asar. We're going to put out the letters in Lakewood and Yirsa Hashem from Rav Victor Miller, the Kashever Rav, the Debertzina, the Sklana, Yibad L'Chaim, Yirsa Hashem. So anyhow, this is the Kashever Rav. I think we have to give Josh Mailman, my good friend, a new name. Nothing personal, Josh. You do your stuff. I'm going to do my stuff. When we meet, we can be polite and shalom aleichem. You can't resent that I'm making a mechor. As a matter of fact, I'm doing you a favor. I'm taking away some of the ores, some of the poison of what you're doing. The fact that I'm calling you out on it now, so there's a mechor on it. This helps you, ba'olam hazeh or ba'olam haba. So, Reb Josh, I think we should call you the Kasher Rav. There's the Kashever Rav and the Kasher Rav. Because it seems that you've overtaken Ezra Friedlander, you're far ahead of my good friend Reb Yerucham Silva, and you're beating out Chatzkel Bennett, and what's his name? The one who has the radio program, I can't remember his name, Goldberg or whatever it is. Not Goldberger. Community Matters, that one. And you are becoming the Choinef in Chief. Everything is good. La, la, la. Everybody's seeing Ochen Vei, we're considering what's going to come down, assisted suicide. You see right now, and we're going to discuss it, that the state of New York Board of Education has already issued guidelines. It's not a law, but it's guidelines, very dangerous, that in general there has to be 6 hours of secular studies commensurate with the amount of hours that the Gentile or irreligious Jewish children spend in public school from 9 to 3. So you got to have 6 hours of English. So if English starts at 1 o'clock, the kids have to be in school till 7 o'clock. You understand? If you want to have Limudei Kodesh. So you understand the sakana. When I was telling you that the garbage that's going on in England now, where they're pushing Ofsted, Schmofsted, whatever they call it, they're pushing they're taking over the school systems and they're telling them what you got to do or we'll close you down. And you got to teach tolerance and respect and British, yes, true British values. How we must respect all of the people who are committing sodomy and all kinds of other deviance. They're exactly morally equal to the rest of you Jews and Jaimes, and you Blarney better darn well teach that in your yeshivot and schools, or we will close you down. And I told you that it's coming to a theater near to you. It's coming across the pond from the Atlantic Ocean, that it should be here presently. And I'm unpleased actually, to tell you that the ship has arrived. And the fact of the matter is, in the ship of state of New York, under Mario Cuomo, clutch, clutch, clap, clap, Uchatzkel Bennett, the great Aguda activist, told us in the paper that you don't have to be ashamed to bring into your house, as the Hamodia advertises themselves. We don't have to be embarrassed when we see Simcha the Chonev Eichenstein in the Friday issue of Hamodia pre-election, saying with a picture with that swarmy Oisvar Schumer, the Shema Yisrael, who recently came in with a green yarmulke to celebrate his lesbian daughter's chuppah. We don't have to be embarrassed by this Simcha Eichenstein. You understand? So the ship has come in, and now the ship of New York State, the Board of Education of New York State, is telling us that we have to have 6 hours of commensurate secular studies. There is a little escape clause there buried there, because they're not going to come down full hard hammering, but they're giving us a precursor, a lek and a shmek, of what's on its way. And by the way, you can bet your bottom dollar or your Hanukkah donuts, you can bet them all in your Hanukkah card game. You can bet that one of the things they're going to do rather quickly is to turn over the great accomplishment of Simcha Felder in terms of protecting the yeshivas from just this kind of Chazarayan interference. They're going to turn it over big time. And then it's not merely going to be a Board of Education of the state of New York regulations. It's going to have the force of law. Coming to a theater next to you. Now, I say again, what should Aguda be doing here? They realize they have no more strength there. They realize they're looked at with disdain. So there's a time now to wag the tail of the dog, to be the Paul Revere of morality and Yiddishkeit, and embarrass and challenge the Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, the evangelicals, the Pentecostals, the Catholics, to push, and be an Orla Ami. We have nothing to lose by being Menake and being Mahapech, making a sea change. We can speak out now for morality at this last minute. We have nothing to lose. But no, will they do that, or will they do the Josh Melman full steam ahead with the errant Rabbi Shera doctrine? Kiss up, for a few shekalim. Kiss up, for a few shekalim. We will kiss up to every low life. We will kiss and chanfa every minuda and mushchiz. For a few shekalim we'll sell our mother. Levin, is that nice to say, sell your mother? I wasn't talking in a mother in a biological sense. I was talking about Baal Tita ish Torah simecha, your mother's Torah. The milk of your mother's Torah you're selling out. Shame on you. So is Aguda going to do a mailman? Please, hey there, Mr. Mailman, put your check in the mail, man. Yeah, it's all about the check in the mail. Like Governor Cuomo said when he came down to the Satmar of the Heilige Rebaren. No, is nicht wie so der Psalm Leib, is a große Talmud Chuchem, ist heilig, im heilig. Jo, sehr heilig, und weiß nicht, was passiert, Rebaren. Ist flieht in den Himmel, und weiß nicht, was meint, wenn Governor Cuomo kommt. And Bazan Tish of our video, Zuk, the Governor Cuomo. The most important person I brought here is Robert Montague, my budget director, and he came with his checkbook. Yeah, and everybody has geschmeichelt. Reb Aaron didn't know that it's like an Esnan Zoin, it's a Busha Becherpen. If our goy would see such a thing, he would think, fech of the Yidden. Like Rodney Bichette, the Haitian who represents parts of Flatbush Midwood, said when somebody spoke about morality, The Orthodox Jews are not concerned with that stuff. They're just concerned with getting a bigger piece of the pie. Yeah, we only want a bigger piece of the pie. We want some more of those Hanukkah donuts. That's what we want. Yes, sir. Yes, sirree. And now, Helen Rosenthal, a city councilwoman from the Upper West Side, who's co-sponsored many schmutz bills. She's from the 10 worst people in the ultra-liberal city council. She got in only because her name was Rosenthal, and it was a six-way race. She was Agonish Megonish, but there was an assemblyman there named Rosenthal. So when people, the masses, are chamurim, jackasses, saw the name Rosenthal, so they figured it's that assemblyman, or it's a cousin, or this, or other. If it's Rosenthal, they know what they're doing. So she got in, and now she's going to try. She's announced that she's going to be running for city comptroller. You understand? We need her like a Lachem Cup, and she did the obligatory trip to Israel, where she met with some kind of a Jewish women's organization. We'd like to know a little bit more information about that. You understand? She's going to say how pro-Israel she was. What was she meeting with? Jofa, the Jewish feminists who, I'm going to put this on one of their video. They have like a 4 or 5 minute video, and it's such a tearjerker. When I was sitting up in the upper mechitza, on the balcony, I felt so removed from everything. I felt so removed from the tefillas. The poor sweet woman says, and the other one says, when I recited Kaddish in a minyan for the first time as a shliach tzibur or shlucha tzibur, whatever she is, I felt so proud and so happy. So you say, no. Okay, Rabbi Moshe had a tshuva where he called them out for what they're trying to do to imitate the men. They're trying to get rid of the whole concept of Shoshani Kirtzainik. That would be a halbutzara if that was the only problem. But the problem is that at Jofa, I think they have had breakout sessions. You think Agudah is the only one who could deal with progressive, al-tikri progressive Schmutz? They do it, Jofa, Jewish Orthodox Feminists of America, whatever it means, association. They do it a little bit more blatantly. They have had sessions about, inclusiveness and diversity, to the gay and lesbian, by ABCD, PLQ, transgender community, you understand? And don't ask these tzaddikislech what they hold about abortion, if they'll stand up for the Jewish babies, like their foremothers, meaning Yocheved and Miriam, saved the babies from being killed. Yeah, ask Blue Greenberg. Oy vey, when we see how we can sing the blues in more ways than one. Can blues and shofar blow her away. Anyhow, moving right along. I think, by the way, that we should call that special session that's going to go down in history of Agudah Chanfening Simcha the Neophyte Eichenstein, and we got to throw in Lakewood there, and we got to bring the corruptor here, the corruptor in chief from Lakewood, and of course David the Snake Greenfield. I think we should call them the three stooges of sycophancy and sodomy. So you say to me, Greenfield, I told you it's established that he's voted for sodomy bills. Eichenstein never voted for sodomy bill, but he made sure to take the sodomy in chief of New York, the big supporter, de Blasio, for the preening peacock walk down 13th Avenue. Like he really needed de Blasio in order to get elected. We were going to listen to de Blasio, and he had to take to Napoli, who was doing terrible things as well. I've discussed it in the past. So he had to take them, and then he had to bring in Schumer, who is the chief proponent of sodomy, as the minority leader in the Senate. You understand? So I think that Simcha, who went to the birthday party of Corey Johnson, I think it qualifies that we can say he has some kind of an association with sodomy. And therefore, so you say, but what about Yehuda? You're losing it. What about Mayor Lichtenstein? Mayor Lichtenstein, Chas v'Sholem, never did anything having to do with sodomy. No, I'm not sure he doesn't support Bob Singer and other Oisvafen who've done that. And that's guilt by association, you understand? Ask not what you can do for your country. asked what your country could do for you. In other words, it's a plan what Kennedy did. We asked for money, we asked for more money, we asked for more money, and the country can, go to hell in a handbasket. They can have all the immoral legislation you want. Abi stopp ins mit a bissel Geld. And how much is the Esnan Zoyna? So therefore, but Mayor Lichtenstein, wasn't he on the committee that was sitting in the library when Alter Richter last month was sitting, rather in the committee hearing, when Alter Richter was lambasted by the Gentile on the committee who compared the immoral misbehavior of the Mishkevei Zohar with our Jewish religion, that it's a civil rights issue, when Richter was saying we should do something about the library. Did Mayor, the corrupter Lichtenstein, did he bother to speak out against the library situation? Did he bother to defend his fellow Jew and say, excuse me, we are opposed, we are offended by the comparison of somebody's bedroom misbehavior to our religion that we died for, of Kedoshim Tiyu? There are blacks who get very upset when they hear that the Gayachs are speaking in terms of civil rights. They say, that's not what civil rights is all about. That's not what civil rights is. As I wrote in the New York Times in the op-ed piece that they solicited from me after I ran for mayor of New York, not that I came begging them to take it. I was just a 31-year-old. I wrote a moral wrong. It wasn't my own line, I have to tell you. One of my brain trusts told it to me, but it's beautiful and it resonates. A moral wrong cannot be the basis of a civil right. Okay? Now, I just want to tell you another level of corruption. The YU commentator, the newspaper. You got to see this article I put out in the video that somebody sent me. A shout out to Ari for doing such a great job and sending me so much good schar. Thank you, Ari. God bless you. You're getting schar for this. And you got to see that article. If you have a heter for the internet. But who doesn't have a heter for the internet? Bobov and Satma and Lubavitch and I give this just to all. They're all busy putting out all their propaganda and the Chantfarai. So why not? Why not? So you can check this out. You see, they said that this guy Katz, who was a graduate in 2011 from YU, came back to give a full report, and 65 people packed the room in YU to speak about the inclusiveness for religious means Demiscary Orthodox, quote unquote, observant LBTQRSPUW Mushtas Hashchasa. You understand? And how they're doing it in Israel. Okay? So when I was fighting with Noach Deer, and I wanted him to fight against Mishkav Zachar, and the Judge Deer's a great guy, but on that thing he was wrong. It's many years ago, nearly 30 years ago, but he was wrong on that. So he ran to Rav Vayishlach and he said, Holy Dale, Rosh Thomas, what do we have to fight it for? Rav Shach said, no, you have to fight it in America, because all the people in America are influenced by their surroundings, and of course we have all kinds of schmutz. And by the way, there's another new organization called Shalev or something like that. I'll be telling you about another an ortho Mishkav Zoch organization. There's so many of them, you have no idea. And in Israel, Ashel, and I forget the names of the Hod, right? They have an open Mishkav Zocher, modern ortho rabbi of a shul who's an open Mishkav Zocher person, and the Tanya. Yeah. So this stuff is going to Eretz Yisrael. So I was right in fighting Deer, because Rav Shach told Deer, we owe you a thank you that you're going to fight it, which he ultimately did fight it. Too little, too late, but he tried hard at the end, and he got a lot of brickbats, and I understand why. But I felt that why he was reluctant, but if it's too hot in the kitchen, get out. And I say the same thing to Simcha Eichenstein. We don't need your representation if you're not going to stand up proactively and speak for morality, not a little stille hate and be absent or come with Suda's vote against this stuff. Not enough. You got to speak out proactively against it, because that's who you represent. You represent the Am HaTorah. So anyhow, I was right in fighting Deer, and Rav Shach was right when he told him that the garbage from America comes to Eretz Yisrael, and it's happening now, big time. I want to call once again. I want to give a tremendous shout out to the Jewish press. I renewed my subscription with them. They're gewaldig. I'm telling you, thank you so much to Greenwald and Miss Maurer I don't know if we agree on everything philosophically, but the fact that you're allowing the MS to come out in the paper, you should be an example for Haimi Moidia and Yated Nemon. Yeah, a faithful peg. The peg is stuck in the mud. Why don't we see these kinds of articles in the Yated, in Hamashbucha, in AMI? Yeah. Action is required in several fronts for the current Jewish press, the Friday, November 23rd edition. Okay, there are 2 federal judges who were nominated by Trumpina, the Trumpenik, who are openly pro their Mishkav Zachar, and they're going to do tremendous damage. And we salute the writing this article, and they call upon us. They call upon us to get in touch with Senator Lindsey Graham, which parenthetically, Yesh Lichshais Olav Gamkein, Va'oisay Ha'inyan. But nevertheless, we should be calling the Washington, D.C. Congressional Switchboard. They give the number here. Let me give it to you. This is great. 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. It's very easy. Get the Washington Switchboard. You ask to speak to Lindsey Graham, who's the new chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and they can deep six these judges, plead with them, beg with them, say we're Orthodox Jews. You don't have to say your name and address. We're pleading with the senator for millions of devout Christians, Muslims, Jews, and even irreligious people. We don't want to have these open activist homosexual judges. There are 2 of them. Patrick Bunate and Mary Rowland, 2 judicial nominees that we must oppose. Assisted suicide, New Jersey residents urge all 3 of your state legislators to oppose assisted suicide legislation, which is coming up in the legislature. Now, they speak about very important things in this week's Jewish press article. What are we going to do now that the Republicans are in charge? What are we going to do? So they very wisely point out that this thing that many Haimis did, they were discussing with the Democrats. What do you want, Joe Levin? We're following your lead. No, you're not following my lead. I remained a registered Democrat for the exact reason that this person, Benjamin Feinberg, is explaining here so logically. Let me explain. If you're not defeating somebody in the Democratic primary, if you defeat him in the Democratic primary, you have a chance to put in a more centrist or conservative Democrat. It's going to be very hard, but it's possible. This was almost done when a guy named Payon ran against Simrowitz, and if it wouldn't have been for Aguda and Kisgaf and this and that, with a little bit more help, a few hundred votes, an Orthodox Jew could have shook up the whole assembly by being in the assembly. So the way to do it is a primary. Voting Republican in this town, where there's a 6-to-1 edge of Democrats over Republicans, is a waste of time and a waste of a vote. It's not even a machar. Voting in the Democratic primary, and if you have nobody to vote for, you write down morality, that's worthwhile, Mr. Morality. I've discussed this in the past. So he's saying people should now register Democrat in New York and environs, in New York State, so that they should have some influence. Hopefully, once in a while, it could be in a neighborhood that's also with Hispanics. We could find the evangelical Christian that would have the support of his pastors and everything else. Let's say in a neighborhood like Queensburg, and would run a race in the Democratic primary and unseat an Oisrof like Joseph Lentil, who used to be a conservative Democrat type, but over the years has become a schmutziak. He's an alte Zucken buck. The Yesh Lichshais Olav Gamkein. And he could really be defeated if the Wiensburg Chevra would get together with the Hispanic evangelicals and everything else was strong there, and the churchgoers, and they would vote in the Democratic primary. They could do a job on a few people. So that's what you have to do. You have to become Democrats. Well, Rabbi Say, I very much advise you to get the Jewish press at page 17 of this week to read this article in depth. Okay? Now, and I have to speak about this next week. I want to share with you a Dvar Torah, Zechan Nishmas Yeshayahu ben Avraham Halevi in Vayetze. Let's go very quickly to Vayetze. Yaakov is going to find a wife. So he goes and he sees Rachel with the tzayin. And it says in the pasuk, and it was when Yaakov saw Rachel and the tzayin, and he girded his loins and he picked up the He picked up the stone. So the question is like this: Mela, when he saw Rachel, a pretty person, his wife to be, etc., he was in Zoyrish, it's going to be the mother of Mashiach ben Yosef, Shiftekah, and everything else. Okay, what was the big thing that is equivalent, parallel to that he saw the tzayin? He got so excited with the tzayin. What does that mean? Okay. Now, Yaakov is Rachel bas Lavan Achimai Vesoin Lavan Achimai, son of Lavan. And if he saw the sign and the sign belonged to Baba black sheep, it belonged to Igor the Greek. Why is that the sign of Lavan? Achi? Why? Okay. Then let's go further. He said, Lavan, Yaakov is so anxious to have his wife so he could start to father Shiftekah. He's in his 80s. He says, Havali va'avoya leha, and Rashi brings down the Chazal, even a prostitute. The person doesn't say, I'm going to conjugate with her. What's for a sach is that? She says he was anxious to shift the cover. He was so anxious. If you look in the Torah, Yaakov says, if he's in a rush, why does he put it 7 years? He should have said, I'll work for you for 6 months for Rachel, your daughter. Let him say, what are you, crazy? 20 years. He'll say, no, I'll work for you a year. And maybe you could have shaved off a year or two and had shift the quicker. So what's pshat in that? You understand? Then he's about to leave. Because Yosef is born the Sitna Shel Esav, so we can go back to Israel to be in kind keep it of aim. Okay? And all of a sudden, Lavan tells him, Nachashti vayivach Hashem v'golosi I divined. He's also a Nachash Lavan. Hashem blessed me because of you. And this feeds right into the canard that the Jews are all money hungry. He's about to leave. And because Lavan says, name your own price, Yaakov stays. And then later on, Hashem comes to them in a dream. And Hashem says to Yaakov, okay, it's time to leave. Hashem says to Yaakov, it's time to leave. What do? We have a whole parsha in the Torah for psukim and psukim. He should have said, okay, my family, Hashem told me to leave. Let's go, pack up, let's go. Instead, he calls his wife out to the fields with the tzayin. We have to get with the tzayin. And he's talking to them. He's going on and on. Your father ripped me off. Your father this. And then they say, listen, we have no chalik with our father anymore. And now go. And now that his wife's told him, so he goes. I mean, if Hashem tells you, it's very nice. They say, Musa, you have to consult with your wife and you should go with sneers in private. It's all very nice. We're afraid of a Watergate taping that Lavan would find out. I understand. But for crying out loud, this takes up so many psukim in the Torah. Hashem told you to leave. Hashem told you to leave. So these are some of the questions. I have a feeling I'm leaving out some of the questions. I'm sure I'm leaving out some of the questions. Another question is, he starts to scream at Leah, what are you bothering me about children? Rachel, rather. He says, what are you bothering me about children? Hashem is the one who didn't give you children. You want me to daven for you and this and that? And he gets all angry at her. This is the Vayishlach Avos. This is the way you treat a wife. A wife is barren, who's a brach, and her sister's producing a lot of children. She's not. She wants to shift a car. What's going on over here? This is the way to talk. Yaakov the Vayishlach Avos to talk with such anger and everything else. So there's one answer. Yaakov knew that he's marrying and Yivdik Ba'acheho, and Yivdik, the family comes from the family of Lavan and Besuel, the biggest oiswaffen. He has to have 12 for 12. He has to bat 1,000. Shift their car, Holy of Holies. How is he going to do it? See, he knows he's going to have to do certain pa'ulas and avodah rabbah to clean the taint out of the imahos, that they should be roy to mother shift their car without any blemish, mitasa shlema. So that's what it means when he sees the juxtaposition of Rachel, the first time, the first meeting, the first impression, and she's with the sign of Lavan. He understands that if I do an avodah with the sign of Lavan, I will be purging Rachel. So if you love Rachel so much, it says, it should have been every day I'm desperate to marry her. The 7 years should have killed me. If you know a person's sick and they need a doctor and it's a 7-year treatment, if you love the person, you want them to get every bit of the medical treatment. That's why it's Kiyam Machadim, because he knew that she needed that. That's why he got angry at her when she was pushing. I didn't have children yet. He said, wait, I know that you need 7 years of cleanliness before you have children, to clean the tank, to do the avodah with the sign. If you rush things, then you won't have one of the pure shiftei kol. Mimei, Hashem held it back from you. The 7 years went to Leah. Now I need another 7 years for you. That's why Yaakov got upset. And that's why he had a problem. When Hashem told him, go back to your parents, he didn't say, take your kids and take your family. And it's a long distance call. He couldn't call back, hello, Rabbi Shalom, how come you didn't mention my family? So he didn't know what to do. He was in a quandary, a dilemma. He didn't know what to do. From the word Dilma, in what do you call it, in Aramaic. So what did he do? He took them out to the sign in the field, the juxtaposition of the first time he met Rachel, that way with the sign. And he told them a whole thing. I did this with the sign. I did that with the sign. Your father switched on me. And they said, we have nothing left in our father anymore. Remember when it says Lavan's face was like, not like before, it was all squeezed out like a prune because he sucked back all the money. The reason he stayed is because he understood the money invested in the sign was now, the wealth was with Lavan. He hadn't done the sign enough until Aseres Moanim, until he switched it, it all became his. So the whole thing was the avodah with the sign. And once he did the avodah with the sign, and by the way, the Kabbalists say that these sign, the sign from Yaakov Avinu came back in future Dairis. This might have been the door of Yetzias Mitzrayim. This is Yehuda Levin. Spread the word about our coming to Lakewood. Please, Moira Rabbi said, we're looking forward 2 weeks from now. We're going to shake things up. If you're in the Agudah convention, go over and confront the Agudistas and ask David and Simcha Eichhasi, and ask them cutting questions about morality. Speak up for Kedushas Hashem. And remember the hotline number, Moira Rabbi said, the hotline number again is 641-715-3900. 641-715-3900, 24-76-56. Until we meet again, a guten Tamid. Thank you for listening. Spread the word about the program and be a shutef in everything that we are doing. Kol Tuv Selah.